Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Archana Solanki. Here are the headlines we're tracking this evening. Rupee recovers from new all-time lows, and intervention from the RBI and exporters hurrying dollar sales at higher levels helps trigger the Indian currency's biggest single-day gain in 7 months. Sensex and Nifty declined for the third straight session. All sectoral indices end in the red. Mid-caps underperform. Shriram Finance board will meet on Friday to discuss a fundraise. This comes amid reports of Mitsubishi Financial Group eyeing a 20% stake in the company for $4 billion. The Vedanta Demerger will be completed by April next year, says Anil Agarwal. One day after the company law tribunal waved the green flag, Agarwal says the entire debt of parent Vedanta Resources will be paid off in 3 to 4 years. That's an exclusive. Lok Sabha debates a new bill that aims to open up the closely guarded atomic energy sector to private players. Ministers of State Jitendra Singh says the bill is paramount to reduce dependence on fossil fuels. Congress questions the removal of the supply liability clause, adds that the bill provides no clarity on the degree of independence of the regulator. In a major escalation, President Donald Trump orders a blockade of sanctioned oil tankers as the U.S. attempts to choke the country's economy, which is heavily reliant on oil. The move comes as U.S. builds up military presence in the region. ChatGPT maker OpenAI is in talks with Amazon about a potential investment of $10 billion. CNBC reports Amazon is also keen on an agreement to sell its semiconductors to OpenAI. Amazon has already invested $8 billion into OpenAI's rival, Anthropic. Chinese AI chip maker Meta X skyrockets nearly 700% on its debut on the Shanghai Stock Exchange. The company had raised nearly $600 million via the IPO. The world's richest man, Elon Musk's net worth touches $650 billion as Tesla stock hits a record high. Musk's net worth is now more than the combined wealth of Larry Page and Jeff Bezos, who are the second and third richest in the world. All right, the top story this evening, the rupee recovered nearly 1% a day after breaching the psychological 91 mark against the dollar and hitting an all-time low. This is the currency's biggest single-day gain in 7 months. So what aided the rupee's recovery? Lata Venkatesh is here to decode for us.
Well, the rupee has recovered and ended higher for the first time since December 10th. So it's been almost 2 weeks of continuous fall and lower close that the currency was seeing. Actually, it started the morning lower, a dollar costing as much as 91 rupees and 7 pies. But at that point, there was some bit of RBI selling. But there was a bunch of exporters selling as well, because 91 was such a lucrative number for them that we saw a very sharp recovery in the rupee, 1 rupee, to all the way to 90 rupees and 02 pies. That was the level of recovery one saw in the rupee. At that point, there were also a lot of stop losses triggered. Many people had not expected such a sharp recovery, and there were stop losses on the way. So at 90.50, there were stop losses triggered. So more people had to come and buy to reduce their losses. And that led to a fairly decent recovery in the rupee. The other reason why you saw the rupee recovery was also because crude oil prices had fallen below $60, and that is always sentimental positive for the rupee. But at that attractive level of 90.02, there was also dollar buying by oil companies. So the rupee moved in a big range today and settled somewhere in the middle of that range. You can't say all the bad news or the negative sentiment is over, but clearly a relief for the beleaguered currency.
Right. Thank you, Lata, for that comprehensive update. Shifting focus to the markets now, the Wall Street was under pressure for the third straight day. All major indices ended lower, with the Nifty falling below the 25,850 mark. The Nifty was dragged lower by financial heavyweights M&M and L&T. The broader markets saw more pain and underperformed the blue chips. The mid-cap index fell over 300 points. Crude oil prices are attempting to rebound after hitting the lowest level in nearly 5 years. The crude market is under pressure this year after top oil producers ramped up production after years of output cuts. Investors are also pricing in lower geopolitical risks and are hopeful of a ceasefire agreement in Ukraine. Many experts believe the American blockade on Venezuela's oil will not have a significant impact on prices. It's also worth keeping in mind that falling oil prices could signal a slowing economy. From crude to the precious metals, prices of silver hit a record high of nearly $66 an ounce. Silver prices have climbed 30% in the last 1 month alone and have increased 127% in 2025 so far. Weakening of the US dollar index, a higher unemployment rate in November from US are boosting sentiment. Shriram Finance gained in trade after the company said its board would meet this Friday to consider a proposal to raise funds. Now, this comes at a time when Japan's Mitsubishi UFC Financial Group is reportedly nearing a deal to acquire minority stake in the firm for $4 billion. Gaurav Javalkar is here with all the details. Gaurav.
Well, yes, one of the most speculated deal can come in the market this Friday, and the reason being that Shriram Finance is going to have their board meeting where they will consider fundraising, and this also includes fundraising via QIP. Now, earlier, we have already seen some of the market speculation going around. MUFG interested in buying Shriram Finance, around 20% stake is what they're eyeing for. And at the same time, recent reports also suggest that the valuation that they're eyeing for is anywhere between $3.2 billion to $4 billion. Now, if you consider the $4 billion mark, it still leaves around 9 to 10% upside from this price as well. Now, if you look at Shriram Finance, fundamentally, there is no need for capital immediately because the capital ratios are at around 20%. So this capital will be seen as a strategic capital which will be flowing in the company. This will actually bring down the cost of funds, and at the same time, given that MUFG will also be seen as a strategic buyer, there is further headroom for credit re-rating, and that is the reason why it is going to be positive for Shriram Finance if the deal comes through. Apart from that, if you look at the stock performance, it has gone up almost more than 25% in the last 6 months itself. But even after this rally, if you look at the valuations, the FY27 based on FY27 earnings, the price to book still stands at around 2.2 times. If you compare it with its closest peer, it still trades at around 4 times price to book. So that is something which also needs to be considered. When we look at the overall market reaction and the commentary, earlier management had categorically denied, but in the last conversation that they had with us, they indicated that there will be many discussions going on and there will always be some interested party. So they did not deny, neither they confirmed the news flow, but at the same time, given that there is a lot of speculation going around and there is a board meeting for fundraise, we will be watching out on what happens in Shriram Finance on this Friday.
Right. Thank you, Gaurav, for that update. Let's shift our focus to the big news maker. Now, the Vedanta Demerger will be completed by April next year, says Anil Agarwal. He spoke with Nigel D'Souza just one day after the company law tribunal waved the green flag for the demerger. Now, Agarwal also said the entire debt of parent Vedanta Resources will be paid off in 3 to 4 years.
It should take normally 3 to 4 months. And we believe by March, this should be done.
Got that.
We will not do anything unturned to make sure this happens.
March 2026 to April 2026, 3 to 4 months from now on should be around then. We got that, sir.
Yes.
But with the demerger underway, does Vedanta now, you have the option of divesting or monetizing an individual asset? Could steel be one such candidate that you could look to divest?
It's too small to talk. We are in big picture. Let's talk about big thing. I know this is a process. If demerge identity and CEO, they say what need to be done. They have to restructure it. But let's look at, I want to remain on the top level.
Okay. And at the top, sir, you have done a good job actually in the big debt reduction at Vedanta Resources. I think that's nearly halved in the last few years. What are the debt reduction targets from here on Vedanta Resources? That's already down by half.
Yeah, we have very structured program. Whatever the this has happened to all the multinational company in the world. So this is a structured program, and in 3 to 4 years' time, we'll be completely paid off all the debt on VRL.
The Board of Market Regulators, SEBI, is likely to back the overhaul of mutual fund expense ratio. Sources say the board could make minor tweaks to its consultation paper based on stakeholder feedback. SEBI is proposing to reduce the fee charged by mutual funds from current levels. The proposal is also to impose limits on brokerage for cash transactions and derivative trades. If approved, mutual funds will get cheaper for investors. Nephrocare went public today with shares listing at 7%. At a 7% premium to its IPO price. The company provides dialysis and renal care with a strong presence in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. It operates through strategic partnerships and adopts an asset-light model. The 871 crore rupee IPO was oversubscribed nearly 14 times, led by strong institutional demand.
We have raised a primary issue for future expansion as well. We have historically grown at a comfortable CAGR of 25 to 30% in that range, and keeping that momentum going, we believe that this fresh issue will also help us fund our future growth.
The Parliament today debated a new bill that aims to open up the closely guarded atomic energy sector to private players. Tabling the bill in the Lok Sabha, Minister of State Jitendra Singh said the legislation will help reduce dependence on fossil fuels and achieve 100 gigawatt of nuclear power capacity by 2047. Now, what has sparked a controversy is the bill elaborates operators shall be liable for damages except those caused by grave natural disaster of an exceptional character. Now, liabilities are also exempt during an armed conflict, civil war, insurrection or act of terrorism. Congress questioned the removal of the supplier liability clause and added that the bill provides no clarity on the degree of independence of the regulator.
भारत का भौगोलिक स्तर पर रोल भी बढ़ रहा है, भूमिका भी बढ़ रही है. And if we have to be a global player effectively, we have to live up to global benchmarks, follow global parameters, and adopt global strategies. आज सारा विश्व क्लीन एनर्जी की जानिब बढ़ चुका है और हमने भी अपने लिए लक्ष्य निर्धारित किया है कि न्यूक्लियर एनर्जी 100 गीगावाट बाई 2047 जब हिंदुस्तान अपनी आज़ादी की 100वीं सालगिरह मनाएगा.
If we are opening up India's nuclear energy sector to private participation, what you require is an autonomous, independent regulator who can be a neutral umpire. Since there is no clarity in the bill about how independent or autonomous the regulator is, I would definitely want the minister to clarify with regard to this.
Now, Delhi residents woke up to yet another day of dense smog and poor visibility as air quality remained in the severe category. In the region, air quality index had peaked to 349 this morning. The Delhi government has mandated that all companies should operate with 50% work from home staffing. The Supreme Court has directed the authorities to consider shutting down 9 toll plazas to ease the traffic at Delhi's borders. Delhi's Environment Minister Manjinder Sirsa has said all private vehicles below BS6 standards and not registered in Delhi will be barred from entering the capital from tomorrow. He added that vehicles without a valid PUC certificate will not be allowed to refuel at petrol pumps. The restrictions will remain in place as long as stage 3 and 4 of the pollution control measures are in place.
एक तो दिल्ली के अंदर जिसके पास पीयूसीसी सर्टिफिकेट नहीं होगा उसको कल का दिन बाकी है, परसों से उसको पेट्रोल पंप पर तेल नहीं मिलेगा. जिनके पास पोल्यूशन सर्टिफिकेट नहीं है, जिन्होंने पीयूसीसी अपना नहीं कराया, उनको केवल एक दिन कल के दिन की उनको मिल रहा है. कल के बाद ऐसे व्हीकल्स को पेट्रोल पंप पे फ्यूल नहीं मिलेगा.
Indigo's chief operating officer appeared before the Parliamentary Committee on Transport after mass flight cancellations affected more than 9 lakh travellers. The airline has since managed to restore most of its operations after aviation regulator watered down rest rules for pilots and crew. The Delhi High Court has refused to entertain a PIL against Indigo seeking compensation of up to 4 times the airfare. The PIL also sought a judicial probe into the airline. The High Court also noted that it was already hearing a similar matter against Indigo. Tata Motors' all-new Sierra has received a bumper response from buyers, clocking over 70,000 confirmed bookings since reservations opened yesterday. In addition, around 1.35 lakh customers have submitted their preferred configurations as they move towards completing booking formalities. The SUV marks the revival of the iconic Sierra nameplate and will be offered in multiple configurations priced at around 12 lakh rupees. Deliveries are expected to begin from mid-January 2026. Supreme Court has granted bail to former DHFL promoters Kapil and Dheeraj Wadhwan in the 34,000 crore bank fraud case. The brothers were accused of cheating a consortium of banks and siphoning off loan funds. The court cited prolonged pre-trial detention and granted bail with strict conditions, including personal bonds, passport surrender, monthly check-ins and travel restrictions. And Delhi police registered a fresh FIR against the former promoters of Samman Capital in a matter involving suspected financial irregularities. Now, the Supreme Court had directed the CBI to take a final call on filing the FIR within a week. And on that note, it's time for a short break. Coming up next, world's richest man Elon Musk's net worth touches $650 billion as Tesla stock hits a record high. More on that when we return. Welcome back. Amazon is in talks with ChatGPT maker OpenAI to invest around $10 billion in the firm. The deal could potentially value the artificial intelligence firm at over $500 million. The agreement could also include the use of Amazon's chips. According to CNBC, the talks between the two firms are very fluid and subject to change. Now, Jared Kushner's Affinity Partners has decided to drop out of Paramount's hostile takeover bid for Warner Brothers Discovery. Now, Kushner is the son-in-law of US President Donald Trump. The Paramount offer had come days after streaming giant Netflix said it had reached a deal to buy WBD's film studio and streaming service HBO Max. Shilpa Ranipeta joins us now. Shilpa, there's a lot happening in the high-stakes battle for Warner Brothers.
Well, you're absolutely right. You know, it's one new twist every day, and in a major twist that came overnight in the Hollywood mega merger battle, Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner's investment firm Affinity Partners has withdrawn from the Paramount Skydance bid to acquire Warner Brothers Discovery. Now, in a statement to Bloomberg, Affinity said that with two strong competitors vying to secure the future of, quote-unquote, this unique American asset, it will no longer pursue this opportunity, though it still believes that there is a strong strategic rationale for Paramount's offer. Now, Affinity, along with three other Arab wealth funds, had already agreed to forego all governance and board rights as non-voting equity investors. Now, its exit leaves the Ellison family and the remaining financiers to carry the bid forward. Meanwhile, there's more happening. The Warner Brothers board is preparing to tell shareholders to reject Paramount's $108 billion hostile tender offer with a filing expected as early as Wednesday. Now, the board argues that its $72 billion deal with Netflix actually offers higher value, more certainty and better terms than Paramount's latest $30 a share proposal. Now, reports say that the board's formal response will highlight valuation, financing structure and deal terms as core deficiencies in Paramount's bid. Now, the final filing is actually still awaiting final board approval. Meanwhile, Warner Brothers shares were trading at around $29 on Tuesday, signaling that investors expect Paramount will still need to sweeten its offer further. As for what happens next, the door is still wide open. The Ellisons could return with a revised counterbid, and Netflix may also choose to respond. Meanwhile, inside Netflix, executives said that the hostile bid was expected from Paramount. And in a memo to employees, Ted Sarandos and Greg Peters reiterated that Netflix has a solid, superior deal, which is good for shareholders, consumers and jobs, and that they're confident of regulatory clearance and the deal closing. Netflix also emphasized that WBD's theatrical business is core and there will be no studio closures or downsizing that will happen, and that Netflix now intends to fully enter the theatrical business once the deal is complete. And the stakes couldn't be higher. Whoever wins WBD gains control of HBO Max and one of the world's most valuable content libraries, from Harry Potter, the DC Universe to Friends, Game of Thrones, and thousands of iconic film and TV titles. Back to you.
Right. Thank you, Shilpa, for that update. We will keep a track on this deal. Of course, shifting focus now, the world's richest man, Elon Musk's net worth touches $650 billion as Tesla stock hits a record high. Musk's net worth is now more than the combined wealth of Larry Page and Jeff Bezos, who are the second and the third richest in the world. Rachna Dhanrajani is here with more on what's sparking this massive surge in Musk's net worth. Rachna.
That's right. Elon Musk's net worth now stands at about $650 billion. Here's why. Tesla stock has hit record levels, buoyed by investor optimism around robo-taxis and autonomous driving. This has come even as the company reports a slowdown in electric vehicle sales, its core business at the moment. But markets are increasingly valuing Tesla as a future AI and mobility platform rather than a conventional car maker. And that shift in perception has lifted both the stock as well as Musk's personal wealth. A key point to note here is that Musk's wealth does not come from a traditional salary. Instead, his compensation is almost entirely equity linked, tied to long-term market cap and performance milestones of Tesla. So when Tesla's valuation rises, his wealth moves with it, sometimes by tens of billions of dollars in just a matter of days. Apart from Tesla, a recent private share sale has pushed SpaceX valuation close to $800 billion, adding significantly paper wealth without a public listing or fresh earnings disclosure. XAI's rising private valuation has also added another layer to this momentum. Together, these moves explain why Musk's wealth can now swing so dramatically in just short periods. But let's take a step back to look at Musk's journey. He became a billionaire in early 2000s with the PayPal sale. But the real acceleration started in 2020 when Tesla's stock surge pushed him past the $100 billion mark for the first time. Since then, his fortune has repeatedly risen and fallen with market sentiment, crossing $200 billion and $300 billion in 2021, dipping sharply in 2022 and climbing up again as investors bet on autonomy, space and AI. The $600 billion moment then is less a sudden breakthrough and more like the latest chapter in a wealth story shaped by markets that are increasingly willing to price the future well ahead of the present. Back to you.
Right. Thank you, Rachna, for that update. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Business 360. News and updates continue right here on CNBC TV18. Thank you for watching.